There's a moment near the end of this movie where an 80-year-old woman is lying on the floor of her own burning house, bleeding out of ammunition, staring up at the man who just beat her half to death. He asks her if she has any last requests before he kills her.
Any last requests?
And without blinking, she tells him to aim for the head. That's not a line from an action movie cliché reel. That actually happens. And by the time you understand who this woman really is and what she used to do for a living before she ever set foot in Montana, that line is going to hit completely different. Stick around, because by the end of this one, you're going to look at little old ladies very differently. We open in a quiet town called Bighorn Ridge, Montana. An elderly woman named Ellen Cole is doing the most unremarkable errands imaginable, picking up a prescription, grabbing a couple boxes of beer. Nothing about her screams danger. At the same time, across town, the local sheriff, Winston, catches a young drifter named Abigail Cochran shoplifting food from a convenience store. Here's the detail that matters. Abigail isn't stealing for fun. Her father just died, she has no family left, and she's planning to leave town for good with whatever supplies she can carry. Winston lets her off with a warning and has his deputy, Henry Darr, drive her out to the edge of town instead of booking her. Henry tries to make conversation on the ride. Abigail shuts it down hard. She's done with this town and everyone in it. He drops her near a gas station, and that's where things almost go sideways fast. Two men, Kyle and Dwayne, spot her trying to hitch a ride and start pressuring her to get in their car. She says no. They don't take no for an answer. And that's when Ellen, the same woman who was just buying beer 20 minutes earlier, steps in and takes both men down without breaking a sweat. Abigail is stunned. This detail is worth holding on to, because it's the first crack in the version of Ellen everyone in this town thinks they know. Instead of just dropping her at the highway, Ellen brings Abigail back to her ranch for a hot meal and a real bed before she hits the road. Over dinner, the two of them open up. Ellen tells her that Abigail's father used to help around the house after Ellen's husband passed. Abigail explains why her dad started drinking. A construction crew working for a land developer destroyed the creek he loved while building a dam, and not long after that, he was found dead at the dam site. It's framed as an accident. Neither woman knows yet how important that detail is going to become. What starts as a favor for a stranger turns into something warmer. Ellen even tells Abigail that travel can broaden the mind, but reminds her it still matters to have a home worth coming back to. A line that's going to feel a lot heavier by the end of this movie. At one point, Ellen jokes, half serious, that the two of them are basically orphans now, and they actually laugh about it together.
You're an orphan now.
Yeah, seems that way.
Me too.
That peace doesn't last. The next day, a wealthy land developer named Richard Duke shows up at Ellen's ranch in a limousine with his enforcer, Mitch Clay, and makes her an offer: money, her pick of any property in his other developments, and a lifetime VIP membership on top of it if she'll sell her land for his new resort project. Ellen shuts him down flat. Duke pushes harder, clearly not used to hearing no. Ellen makes it clear that as long as she's breathing, that ranch isn't going anywhere, at any price. Duke storms off furious and gives Mitch a quiet, chilling order in the car. Get her off that property, whatever it takes. That night, not knowing what's coming, Ellen packs Abigail's bag for the road and even hands her a hunting knife for protection, a small gift that's going to matter a lot more than either of them realizes right now. Because that same night, Kyle and Dwayne, both working for Duke, break into Ellen's house to make her death look like an accident. Dwayne starts tampering with the stairs, hoping to make her death look like a simple fall. Ellen wakes up, catches him red-handed, and despite her age, beats him unconscious with her own oxygen tank, which is somehow already the second time in this recap her medical equipment has doubled as a weapon. Meanwhile, Abigail runs straight into Kyle inside the house, and in the chaos, she finds a gun in a cabinet and shoots him in the shoulder. She's shaking, horrified at what she just did. Ellen calmly tells her to stay quiet, she'll take the blame. And here's the gut punch nobody sees coming. The next morning, the police show up, and instead of arresting the men who broke in, they arrest Ellen. Sheriff Winston brings up her earlier fight at the gas station, then conveniently finds marijuana plants in her barn, just enough over the legal limit to charge her with a felony. Two masked men invaded her home in the middle of the night, and somehow she's the one in handcuffs. If that doesn't tell you Winston's already compromised, keep watching, because it gets a lot clearer. While Ellen sits in a holding cell, Abigail is left alone at the ranch, and that's when she finds something that changes everything. Take a guess at what's hiding underneath that basement. because it is not what you'd expect from a sweet old widow who hands out beer and life advice. Behind a hidden door, Abigail finds a stash of guns, a collection of passports under different names, and old photographs of Ellen in military uniform. Whoever this woman really is, she is not who this town thinks she is. Back at the station, an officer notices a fierce tiger tattoo on Ellen's arm, tells her it's badass, and even shows off his own tattoo in return, completely unaware he's making small talk with a former professional killer. Meanwhile, Dwayne, nursing an injury Ellen gave him, is already out on bail while Ellen sits behind bars. She demands Winston protect her house from Duke's men. He refuses. She flat out accuses him of working for Duke, and he doesn't even deny it, he just tells her no, he won't help her. Not long after, Kyle and Dwayne start loading up gas cans. They're not just done intimidating her, they're going to burn the whole house down. When Deputy Henry, worried about her, brings the tank to her cell, Ellen fakes a collapse, disarms him the second he's close enough, locks him inside, and fights her way out. On her way to the exit, she casually takes down another officer by grabbing him by the finger, and when a second officer tries to tase her, she wrestles the weapon away and drops them both. She's not running from the law anymore. She's racing home because she knows exactly what Duke's men are about to do to her house. If you think the gas station takedown was impressive, wait until you see what happens once Ellen realizes her home and Abigail are both in danger at the same time. Ellen gets back to the ranch and tries to send Abigail away in the truck before the police arrive. Abigail refuses to leave her behind. Sure enough, the police show up outside, and Ellen calmly walks out to meet them on her own porch. Winston points a gun at her. She disarms him effortlessly and puts him on the ground in front of his own officers, a public humiliation that pushes him to call in serious backup. Deputy Henry, the one decent cop in this whole story, warns Winston not to escalate further because Abigail is still inside. He goes in unarmed to talk her out, and that's when Abigail shows him something huge. A map connecting a string of accidents at other local ranches. A fire ruled a brush fire, a cattle herd wiped out by a disease that doesn't belong in that climate, an owner who supposedly took his own life afterward. Individually, they look random. Laid out together, they look like a pattern. And Abigail drops one more detail that changes how Henry sees everything. She always believed he was the officer who found her father's body at the dam. He wasn't. Duke's men got there first, which means the two of them start putting together the horrifying possibility that her father wasn't a drunk who wandered into the water. He may have been murdered for what he knew. There's no time to sit with that realization, because Mitch shows up outside with armed men, and these aren't Kyle and Dwayne level amateurs anymore. These are trained mercenaries, the kind Duke clearly keeps on retainer for exactly this sort of problem. Winston tries to buy time to get Abigail out safely. Mitch gives him 3 minutes. Henry refuses to hand her over and starts questioning why Duke's private security is even at a police standoff in the first place. Winston, with what looks like real guilt on his face, gives the signal to move in anyway. Inside the house, Ellen makes a hard call. She knocks Henry out, because right now he's a liability,
Ellen, what the fuck? He's a sweet boy, but he's a liability.
and drags him with Abigail down into that hidden basement room, tying him up and locking them both inside for their own safety. Then she starts rigging the house with booby traps, room by room, like she's done this exact thing before, which, as it turns out, she absolutely has. While the police run a background check on Ellen, they hit a wall records show her arriving in Bighorn Ridge back in 1999, and almost nothing before that, like her entire life, just starts on that one date. Then they run her tiger tattoo through the FBI database, and the truth comes back. Ellen Cole is a former KGB operative, known by a code name that translates roughly to sword and shield.
You remember those tattoos we found on her?
Yeah, what about him?
Database says sword and shield in Russian.
Outside, Dwayne finds a row of Ellen's old practice targets, every single shot dead center, and starts to panic in real time. The mercenaries try to ram a vehicle through the house. Ellen shoots the tire out before it gets close. One by one, her booby traps start taking men down in the yard, and Dwayne bolts, abandoning his own team entirely. Mitch and the rest force their way inside anyway. Meanwhile, Abigail tries to force her way out of the hidden room, and one of the mercenaries hears the noise and starts working on the door. At the same time, Ellen kills the attackers one by one with terrifying precision, moving through her own home like it's a weapon she built specifically for this. No wasted ammunition, no hesitation, taking their own guns off their bodies and turning those against the next man through the door. She kills with a single shot each time. Meanwhile, back in the hidden room, Abigail manages to cut Henry loose right as a mercenary breaks in. Henry fights back but gets overwhelmed, so Abigail steps in and knocks the attacker out cold with a baseball bat. Ellen isn't invincible, though, and this is where the film reminds you her body has real limits. Mid-fight, her lungs give out and she scrambles for her oxygen. Mitch spots the opening and opens fire. She takes a hit, returns fire, but he uses a dead body as a human shield until she's out of ammunition. Mitch actually compliments her, tells her she must have been terrifying in her prime before getting ready to finish her off. He asks if she has any last request. Her answer is ice cold. She tells him exactly where to aim.
Aim for the head.
And in that exact moment, Henry, freed, armed, and done watching people he cares about get hurt, turns his gun on Mitch first. They tie Mitch up and start interrogating him. And this is where the why now question finally gets answered, and it's a good one, because up to this point you'd be forgiven for wondering why Duke didn't just wait her out through the legal system. If the government is already about to seize Ellen's land in less than a year anyway, why go through all this trouble, all these dead men, just to kill her immediately? Mitch admits it. Duke owes serious money to dangerous people, and if his resort isn't built by next summer, he's finished. He doesn't have a year. He can't afford to wait out the legal process. And that desperation is exactly what's been driving every reckless decision Duke has made since he first showed up in that limousine. While Abigail tries to tend to Ellen, who's fading fast without her medication, Mitch secretly grabs a tool off the table she accidentally knocked loose and hides it. He starts taunting Henry about being abandoned by his own sheriff, gets him to lose his temper and get too close, and that's all Mitch needs to break free, overpower him, and set the house on fire. He grabs Henry as a hostage and runs, and his men surround the burning house to make sure nobody gets out alive. This is the moment the movie has been building toward the entire second half. Ellen, Abigail, and Henry retreat to that same hidden basement room one last time and escape through a tunnel nobody outside knows exists. Outside, Mitch's men watch the place burn to the ground, fully convinced they just killed everyone inside. They're wrong. And Ellen, watching her home, the one thing she built after leaving her old life behind, collapse into flames, is devastated in a way none of the violence up to this point touched. By morning, with the mercenaries still combing through ash looking for bodies, Ellen leads Abigail and Henry to a truck she'd hidden in the woods. And finally, for the first time in the whole story, she opens up. She tells them she never had a real home before this ranch. The KGB picked her off the streets as a child and trained her to kill for a living. Later, she met her husband, and together they built something real. Now that's gone too. They know talk isn't enough anymore. They need proof. Abigail remembers her father may have left something behind, and they search his trailer, where they find documents tying Duke's resort project directly to the string of accidents that destroyed the other ranches. Out in the woods, Abigail finally breaks down completely, realizing she spent years embarrassed by her father, assuming he'd lost his mind when he'd actually uncovered the truth the whole time. Meanwhile, Duke gets a call from the Russian creditors he owes. They want their money, and they want him to sign in person. And somewhere in town, Henry warns Sheriff Winston that state police are already on their way to arrest him. That night, Duke learns Ellen is still alive. And this is where we come full circle to where this whole video started. The lights at his estate go dark. His guards start dropping outside, one after another, and nobody sees it happen. Dwayne, terrified, shoves Duke into a closet with a gun and stands guard, waiting for something he clearly doesn't believe he can stop. At the same time, miles away, Abigail is quietly rigging explosives at the dam, the same one that supposedly killed her father when Kyle appears out of nowhere and reveals the twist Abigail suspected but couldn't prove. He's the one who actually murdered her dad. He attacks her, taunting her the entire time, but Abigail pulls the hunting knife Ellen gave her at the start of the movie, remember that gift? And stabs him, leaving him for dead. Back at the estate, every one of Duke's guards is gone. Someone finally reaches the closet, and Duke panics, firing blindly through the door until he's out of bullets. When it opens, it's Ellen. Duke assumes this is where he dies. Instead, Ellen tells him, chillingly calm, that she's not even here for him tonight. She's here for Mitch. When Mitch shows up, she makes it personal he burned down her home, and now she's going to make him pay for it directly. She shoots his hand to disarm him, and when he challenges her to fight him hand to hand, she accepts. He gets the better of her for a moment, but Ellen gouges his eye, turns his own weapon against him, and finishes it. Then she takes Duke out into the forest personally, signals Abigail, and Abigail detonates the explosives, destroying the dam that started this entire chain of events. Duke curses at her, furious and terrified, and that's when one of the Russian creditors arrives to collect his signed papers. He recognizes Ellen instantly and treats her with real, immediate respect. Duke actually smiles at this, assuming the man has come to execute Ellen for him. He has badly misread the situation. Ellen speaks to the man in Russian and simply lets him take Duke away, and she knows exactly what that means for him, even if he doesn't yet. Sometime later, a newspaper reports that Duke is still missing following the massacre at his estate. Nobody's found him. Henry, now the new town sheriff after everything with Winston came out, drops by to deliver Ellen's prescriptions like nothing ever happened. A nice, quiet callback to the very first scene of the movie, except this time it's Henry behind the badge instead of Winston. He and Abigail share a genuinely warm goodbye, a far cry from the girl who wouldn't even make small talk with him in his patrol car at the start of the film. And in the very last scene, Ellen and Abigail load up Abigail's father's old trailer and finally set off together heading toward the trip Abigail always wanted to take, to Machu Picchu, with the one person left in her life who actually understands what it means to lose everything and rebuild anyway. So that's the full story of how a quiet Montana widow turned out to be one of the single most dangerous people in this entire movie. And honestly, the scariest part isn't even the body count. It's how long everyone, including the audience, believed she was just a stubborn old lady with a beer habit. If this recap kept you hooked the whole way through, let me know in the comments which moment got you: the basement reveal, the KGB twist, or that ending with the Russians. And if you want more recaps like this one, breaking down the full story without the fluff, subscribe so you don't miss the next one.